Hey everyone, Brad Little here. I am having leadership discussions for those pastors and churches within the Venture Church Network. One of the things I've been asked to think about is the idea of what are the non-negotiables for biblical discipleship. I mean, the problem with that is that we have hundreds and thousands of books that talk about thousands of subjects that are related to the Christian life. We're dealing with everything from prayer to giving, to what the church is, to marriage, and the list is absolutely endless. And one of the things that I think is hard about biblical discipleship is that it's massive. I mean, how do you boil it down to what are the non-negotiables? And usually we get down to a few things that are disciplines and habits. For instance, I actually love sort of the Navigators. They've boiled it down to four basic things. It's the idea of God's word and prayer, and then witnessing and fellowship, which is really significant and powerful. But how do you pull down what the non-negotiables are? What are the absolute essentials in biblical discipleship? And I'll tell you, one of the things that was a real learning curve for me is this whole journey I had as I was writing my book on the Lord's Prayer. It was a fun journey. It's called Lord's Prayer, Decoded, Unlocking a Life of Purpose and Freedom. And as Jesus interacts with his disciples, one of the things that occurred to me is that in this prayer, he was teaching them what I believe is the non-negotiables of biblical discipleship. I hadn't thought of it that way till I started really thinking about what Jesus was doing. But if you think about this prayer forged out of his baptismal and temptation experience, he's trying to teach his disciples what it means to follow Christ, to follow and have a relationship with God in a broken world. And I want to propose to you that the absolute non-negotiables, the absolute essentials of biblical discipleship are captured within the content of the prayer that Jesus gave to his disciples in Matthew chapter 6. We don't look at it that way, and the reason for it is I think we often look at this prayer in isolation to everything else around it. Doesn't mean it isn't connected, but we don't look at it, I think, the way Jesus did. And one of the things I felt completely convinced of is that Jesus not only gave the prayer, but in the rest of chapter 6 and 7, he actually did his own commentary on the prayer. Like he explained the values, the priorities, the behaviors, the perspectives that prayer really challenged the disciples to have. And what I love about it is it's not only concise, but I think it's comprehensive. I want to put before you that the one area of life that Jesus taught that really is the non-negotiables of Christian discipleship is embodied within the prayer. Starts with relationship with God. It deals with his kingdom and his will being done. And then it moves into something, give us this day our daily bread. And really, biblical discipleship has to touch the ordinary, basic, everyday things of life, or it's not biblical discipleship. And then he deals with things that I know we teach on, but it's not, I don't know if we consider it the non-negotiables. He deals with this whole concept, as you'll see in the prayer, of forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And the absolute potency of understanding the nature of forgiveness that God has given to us and how it relates to others is, I think, a non-negotiable in life. I firmly believe that one of the great reasons why there's so much chaos, even in Christian circles, is because we've never really learned to forgive. And I think that's what Jesus is teaching his disciples. This is a non-negotiable. If you don't master this, you could be in for a very long, painful, difficult life. And then he says, lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. And I believe Jesus is saying, these are the things that you have to master. And if you master these things, you can live a spirit-filled, God-honoring life. But if you can't master these, you're really going to struggle. And so I can't explain the details. Obviously, the idea is, if you really want to understand my thoughts on it, or at least how I want to propose how Jesus thinks about this, I encourage you to buy the book and look at it, because there was no way that I came to this conclusion with the traditional perspective on the Lord's Prayer. I had to expand my thinking to believing that Jesus was actually cultivating his own commentary to help us really understand what the non-negotiables, the absolutely essentials are of biblical discipleship.